Beamy Liam, 28 years old, working as a junior architect at a mid-sized firm. Life is pretty okay. Got a decent apartment, a job that is more interesting than soul-crushing, and a close circle of friends. One of those friends is Amelia, known her since university. We were in the same study group for a brutal structural engineering class and bonded over late-night caffeine-fueled cramming sessions. She is smart, funny, fiercely loyal, and has been my go-to person for pretty much everything for the past decade. There is just one thing about Amelia: she is what you would call a capital F feminist. Not the kind that just believes in equal rights and opportunities. No, she is the kind that sees patriarchy in every spilled coffee and microaggressions in every misplaced comma. Her entire worldview is filtered through this lens. Honestly, for most of our friendship, it was just a background hum. A personality quirk, like someone who is really into CrossFit or craft beer. We would debate, I would play devil's advocate, she would call me a product of my conditioning, and then we would go get pizza. It never really affected our friendship, until it started to. The change was gradual. It began a few years ago when she got really active in some online communities. Her language started to shift. Words like mansplaining, toxic masculinity, and emotional labor became staples of her vocabulary. Our lighthearted debates turned into serious lectures. I felt like I was constantly walking on eggshells, worried that a clumsy phrase or a dumb joke would set off a landmine. It was exhausting. At work, things were also getting interesting. Our firm, like many others, went through a major culture shift. Mandatory diversity and inclusion seminars became a regular thing. We had a new human resources director, a woman named Brenda, who was very, very passionate about equity. Suddenly, there were quotas. Not official, written-down quotas, of course. That would be illegal, but you could feel it. Project lead roles, promotions, even who got the good assignments, it all started to skew in one direction. Several highly competent male colleagues were passed over for promotions in favor of female colleagues who were, to put it politely, less experienced. When anyone grumbled, they were shut down with corporate buzzwords. We're fostering a more inclusive environment. We're correcting historical imbalances. It was like trying to argue with a brick wall. I brought this up with Amelia one evening. We were at our favorite pub, the one with the sticky floors and the good jukebox. I was trying to explain how frustrating it was to see my friend Mark, a genuinely talented architect who had been with the firm for 6 years, get sidelined for a lead position. The job went to a woman who had been there for less than 2 years. She was fine, competent enough, but she was not Mark. Amelia just shook her head before I even finished the story. "Liam, you don't get it," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "This isn't about your friend Mark. This is about systemic change. For centuries, men have had every advantage. Now the pendulum is swinging back. It's about time." "But it's not fair to him," I argued. "He earned that. He put in the work." "Fair?" she scoffed. "Was it fair when women couldn't even own property? Was it fair when they were expected to give up their careers to have children? Sometimes, to achieve true equality, the balance has to be tipped for a while. It's a correction." I tried to explain that 2 wrongs don't make a right, that judging people based on their gender is wrong, regardless of which gender it is. She just was not hearing it. Her eyes glazed over and she started reciting what sounded like talking points from a gender studies textbook. I gave up. We finished our beers in awkward silence. That conversation stuck with me. It was the first time I felt a real chasm opening up between us. A few months later, Amelia got a new job. She was hired as a project manager at a trendy tech startup. The kind of place with beanbag chairs, free kombucha on tap, and a very progressive corporate culture. She was ecstatic. "They're so enlightened, Liam," she gushed over the phone. "My team is 70% female. The chief executive officer is a woman. It's a true matriarchy, and it is amazing." I was happy for her, I really was, but a part of me felt a sense of dread. Her ideology was no longer just a theory she debated with me at the pub. It was her reality. She was living in the world she had always preached about. I wondered what that would do to her. For the first year, it seemed like paradise. Amelia was thriving. She got a promotion, then another. She was leading major projects, managing a large team, and making a name for herself in the industry. Her social media was a constant stream of posts about her girl boss life. Photos of her all-female team at boozy brunches, inspirational quotes about shattering glass ceilings, and long screeds about the evils of the patriarchy. She seemed genuinely happy, but whenever we talked, I noticed something odd. She complained about her job a lot, not about the work itself, but about the people. Her boss, a woman named Cynthia, was apparently a nightmare. "She's a micromanager," Amelia would vent. "She questions my every decision. She takes credit for my ideas. It's like she doesn't trust me at all." She also complained about her subordinates. "They're so passive-aggressive," she would say. "No one communicates directly. There are all these little cliques and alliances. It's like high school all over again. They smile to your face, but then they're talking behind your back." I would listen patiently, offering sympathy and advice. But in the back of my mind, a question was forming. "I thought you said it was a matriarchy," I wanted to ask. "I thought this was the enlightened, supportive environment you always wanted." But I bit my tongue. I knew it would just lead to a fight. The real turning point came with her family. Amelia has a younger brother, David. He is a good kid, a few years younger than us. He was always a bit of a screw-up, but in a lovable, harmless way. He drifted from job to job, never quite finding his footing. He was an aspiring musician, then a budding chef, then a freelance graphic designer. Nothing ever stuck. His parents, who are very traditional, were constantly on his case. Especially his father. Mr. Henderson is a classic old-school guy, worked the same factory job for 40 years, believes in firm handshakes and looking a man in the eye. He loved his son, but he did not understand him. He just wanted David to get a real job, settle down, and be a man. Amelia had always been David's champion. She defended him to their parents, encouraged his creative pursuits, and often helped him out with money when he was in a tight spot. Her feminism extended to her brother. She saw him as a victim of toxic masculinity. "Dad's expectations are crushing him," she would tell me. "He's forcing David into this narrow box of what a man should be. David is sensitive, he's creative. The world needs more men like him, not fewer." I always thought she had a point. Mr. Henderson could be a bit hard on him. Then two things happened in quick succession. First, David's latest venture, a gourmet food truck, went bankrupt. He had poured all his savings and a significant loan from his parents into it. He lost everything. He was devastated. He moved back into his parents' basement, a broken man of 32. Second, Mr. Henderson had a heart attack. It was serious. He survived, but the doctors told him he needed to retire immediately. No more stress, no more physical labor. The factory job was over. Suddenly, the Henderson family was in a crisis. Their main source of income was gone. Their son was unemployed and living in their basement. The family's emotional and financial stability rested entirely on the shoulders of two people, Mrs. Henderson and Amelia. Mrs. Henderson, a sweet but timid woman who had been a homemaker her entire life, was overwhelmed. She did not know how to handle the finances, the insurance, the medical bills. She leaned heavily on Amelia. And Amelia, to her credit, stepped up. She took charge. She organized the paperwork, dealt with the hospital, and set up a budget for her parents. She was working her high-pressure tech job during the day and spending her evenings and weekends managing her family's crisis. The strain was immense. I saw her one Friday night. She came over to my apartment looking like she had not slept in a week. She collapsed on my couch and just started crying. Not just crying, but sobbing, deep, gut-wrenching sobs. I just sat with her, rubbing her back, letting her get it all out. When she finally calmed down, she started talking. "I can't do it, Liam," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "I can't do it all." "You don't have to," I said softly. "You have to take care of yourself, too." "No, you don't understand," she said, sitting up, her eyes blazing with a desperate intensity I had never seen before. "It's all on me. My mom is a mess. My dad he's just sitting in his chair staring at the television. He looks so lost. And David, God, David," she buried her face in her hands. "He's useless," she choked out. "Completely and utterly useless. He just stays in the basement, playing video games and feeling sorry for himself." I asked him to help me with the insurance forms and he just stared at me blankly. He said he didn't know how. I asked him to drive Mom to the grocery store and he said he was too depressed. She looked up at me, her face a mask of anger and despair. I have been propping him up his whole life, she said, her voice shaking with rage. Telling him it's okay to be sensitive, telling him to follow his passions, defending him from Dad. And for what? So he could turn into this man-child who can't even function when his family needs him. The dam had broken. All the frustration, all the resentment, all the things she had been holding back for years came pouring out. I look at my dad, she continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper. He worked a job he hated for 40 years to provide for us. He never complained. He came home every night tired and sore, and he was there. He fixed things when they broke. He taught me how to change a tire. He was a man. He took care of his family. And what did I do? I told him he was toxic. I told him his values were outdated. I told him he was oppressing his son. She let out a bitter, hollow laugh. And look at my team at work, she said, gesturing wildly. My matriarchy, it's a snake pit. Everyone is competing with each other, but not in a healthy way. It's all underhanded and manipulative. There's no loyalty. No one has your back. It's all about individual ambition. My boss, Cynthia, she would throw me under the bus in a heartbeat to save her own skin. I've seen her do it to other people. She stood up and started pacing my small living room like a caged animal. We won, she said, her voice a strange mix of triumph and agony. We won everything. We got the jobs, the power, the influence. We told men to be more like us. To be more in touch with their feelings, to be less aggressive, to step back and let us lead. We dismantled the patriarchy. She stopped in front of me and looked me straight in the eye. And now what? She asked, her voice cracking. Now the world is filled with men like my brother, and the women are all like my boss. The men are too fragile to be providers or protectors, and the women are too ruthless to be nurturers or collaborators. We're all just atomized individuals looking out for ourselves. She finally collapsed back onto the couch, emotionally and physically spent. We won, she whispered again, this time to herself. And it's a disaster. I did not say anything for a long time. There was nothing to say. I told you so would have been cruel and pointless. Instead, I just made her a cup of tea. We sat there in silence, the only sound the clinking of her spoon against the ceramic mug. That night was the beginning of a profound change in Amelia. The ideological armor she had worn for so long had been shattered by the hard, messy reality of her own life. She did not suddenly become a traditionalist overnight. She did not renounce feminism, but her perspective shifted. She started seeing people not as representatives of a gender, but as individuals. Complex, flawed, and beautiful individuals. The next few months were tough for her family. Mr. Henderson struggled with his forced retirement. David remained in a deep depression. Amelia continued to carry the weight of it all. But something was different. She approached the problems with a new sense of pragmatism and a surprising amount of grace. She stopped trying to fix her brother. Instead, she gave him an ultimatum. You have 1 month, she told him, her voice firm but not unkind. 1 month to get a job, any job, I don't care if it's flipping burgers. You need to start contributing, and you're going to see a therapist. I've already made the appointment. To everyone's surprise, David did it. He got a job at a local hardware store. It was not glamorous, but it was a start. He started therapy. Slowly, very slowly, he began to climb out of his hole. Amelia also had a long, difficult conversation with her father. She apologized. She told him that she had been wrong to judge him, that she now understood the sacrifices he had made. She told him she was proud of him. I was not there for that conversation, but she told me about it later. She said he cried, a man she had not seen cry since her grandmother's funeral. Their relationship began to heal. As for her job, she quit. She walked away from the matriarchy and the high-paying tech salary. She took a less prestigious, lower-paying job at a smaller, more traditional architecture firm. The kind of place where people worked hard, collaborated, and treated each other with a baseline level of professional respect. Her new boss was a man in his late 50s named George. He was demanding but fair. He valued competence and work ethic above all else. It's so simple, she told me after her first month there. You do good work, you get rewarded. You mess up, you get called out. There are no mind games. It's refreshing. Our friendship also changed. It went back to the way it was in university. Easy, comfortable, filled with laughter and genuine affection. We could debate again, but this time it was different. There was more nuance, more humility, more willingness to listen. She had not abandoned her belief in equality, but she had abandoned the rigid, unforgiving ideology that had twisted it into something ugly. She had learned that life is complicated, that people are complicated, and that no single worldview can ever capture the full spectrum of human experience. About a year after her breakdown in my apartment, we were at that same pub. The floors were still sticky, and the jukebox was still playing classic rock. Amelia was telling me about a project she was working on, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. David had been promoted to assistant manager at the hardware store and was dating one of his coworkers. Her parents were doing well. Her dad had taken up woodworking and had turned the garage into a workshop. Things were not perfect, but they were good. She took a sip of her beer and looked at me. You know, she said, a small smile playing on her lips. I was thinking about that night at your place when I was a complete mess. I nodded. I remember, I said some pretty crazy things. You were going through a lot, I said. Yeah, she said, her gaze drifting off into the middle distance. But I was also right about one thing. We did win. We won all the arguments. We got everything we said we wanted. She turned back to me, her eyes clear and steady. We just forgot to ask if we would like the world we were creating. She raised her glass. To creating a better one, she said. I clinked my glass against hers. To a better one, I echoed. And in that moment I knew our friendship was stronger than it had ever been. We had been through the fire of ideology and come out the other side, not unscathed but wiser. And that was a victory worth celebrating.